chord.
Evening, everybody. Welcome to the Echo Show. I'm your host, Maui. I'm here with my good friend Ian Leith. Ian, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good, Maui. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm in a more subdued mood. This week's been a tougher week for me, so
Yeah.
I'm in like low power mode. I think
Well,
So
keep them batteries fresh, my man.
yeah. Yeah, it's been an interesting week. My birthday was last week, and that was odd.
Hey, that was
I
a
think I
fun night.
have.
It was
It
fun
was it was a really fun night.
virtually meeting your dad and some other friends.
Yeah, but for me, like growing up with like a rough past, and not a lot of birthday parties growing up. So like for me, like I had a lot of anxiety around not being able to do my birthday in the way that I do it these days. In
Mm-hmm.
terms like
Yeah.
celebrating that with friends and family. So that was a little weird.
Yeah.
And I think it's been in my head since then. And then of course, the ever present social distancing and whatnot. It's
Yeah.
our physical
It's tough
distancing.
out there right now.
Yeah,
We're all in this together, bro.
yeah. But that's all right. We're gonna have a good show tonight. We're gonna talk about
Looking forward to it.
art tonight.
Ooh.
Various ways art can be used as a tool for resistance, a tool of hope, a tool of oppression. Like there is a lot of ways art can be used. So I think we're gonna delve into that a bit today, and then a little bit later we're gonna have on a couple guests from a local organization called Dream Chicago. And they're this lovely arts organization, and we'll save what they're all about until they get on with us in about 15 minutes here. So let's start the conversation. Just you and I first.
Sure.
You as an artist, as a musician, your tool is music. My tool is theater and events. What do you see as the is what's special about that, right? Using art as a communication tool. What do you think distinguishes that from other forms of communication?
Well, art being so many different disciplines. There's music, there's film, there's photography, painting, writing, storytelling, poetry, dance, all different forms of communication. Puppetry.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, puppetry. I think our friend Stephanie, her father, was speaking about that last one on the previous conversations about how puppetry is, like the form of theater, basically theater, and music is part of that theater. It's all part of the suspension of time for a moment to put the viewer or audience into a different place, and it takes you away from the current moment to put you into a place, and it's either delivering messages of hope or perspective. It's telling a story from, oh, I didn't think about that side of things, or it's delivering a message, or it's just outright rebellion and resistance. It's a call to arms sometimes. And the way I've always viewed music as, it's a thing that I love, and I've always loved that. I never really examined exactly why it hit me more than other disciplines of art. And when I say like music, I mean like the music, not necessarily the songwriting, the lyrics to a song, music itself. Because music,
the notes, the tones, the
yes,
sounds.
because music paints time the way paint paints walls. And it colors the environment of time. Whereas there's other art forms that color and fill in space, your surroundings, the physical world. And so it's a less tangible thing. Photography and other visual arts, obviously, it appeals
frame
to
of
those.
the moment in time.
Well, it appeals to the certain senses, your sight.
Mhm.
And for me, it was always about music can change. The feel of a room. Without even without really knowing what it is. It's just all about sound. It's just all that, and I've always found that to be a powerful thing for me.
Yeah.
And so I think I feel like it's one of the most important elements of art, because I feel like a film, like I think I said this before to you, a film always, usually includes music, or even the lack of music is a choice in terms of sending a message out in a film. Anytime there's a gallery showing, you're going to have music to set the mood. Anytime you go out eating at a restaurant, music is a very important choice that people make to create the environment.
Right.
So if you have the ability to hear, if you're not hearing impaired, music is a very important aspect of our mindset and our moods in ways that I haven't even really hashed out myself, but kind of thinking as I talk here.
Yeah.
And I hope I answered
that's
somewhat the question.
But I also think that it, in a way, earlier you were talking about perspective, right? I think that it forcibly puts you into a different perspective, right? You're experiencing the life or a moment or an experience of someone else that lived a different experience from you.
Sure. And
so
you're hearing someone else's ideas.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting transference. And it's something that I've been meditating on. Right. So now I myself am forced to use this medium for what I do.
Sure.
In terms of art and entertainment and whatnot. And how do I translate that live experience that I've been exploring and my artistry through? How do I translate that into a digital form?
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Yeah, it's a challenge. And then we'll talk about this more later when we have our guests on. But that is something we're going to explore this weekend, right? We're going to do this live art experiment, right? Going off of that theme of connection, right?
Yes.
I think a very important theme right now as we are distanced from each other. How do we still connect with each other? And so it's going to be pretty cool. We're going to have a few different artists on. So we're going to have the spoken word component, kind of first to set the stage. They're going to do their spoken word piece, their meditation on connection, and then it'll pass on to a musician, a guitarist, that's going to just kind of noodle on the guitar, improvised in the moment, his meditation on that theme, influenced by what he just heard from another artist. And as he's doing that, then there'll be a dancer, and then she'll dance while he's playing. So right, you'll hear his audio expression while we see her visual expression. And then once all of those components are done, all of that's been viewed by a painter. And then after that, then I will unpack that with them, and then she'll paint, her meditation on everything that she just experienced and saw, right? So you're seeing perspectives change and being exchanged, right? Like, oh, here's my thing, it's no longer mine, now it's yours, and you're going to do it, and seeing if we can create a connection through those different mediums in different places. So I think it'll be an interesting experiment.
And each one will influence the other. It's going to be flowing back and forth, as things connect.
Right. So can you transfer that energy even though we're in separate places? Right? Can we transfer that digitally in a way that is meaningful? Because I have an issue. I don't post a lot like I used to online on Facebook and whatnot. Like I post here's an update on my health. Here's the food I'm cooking, things like that. But in terms of just getting into conversation with people online, I don't do it. I don't do it because everything's so binary in the way that people process information that way. Like if I'm having a conversation with somebody face to face, there's no way that people would talk to me the way they would talk to me over Facebook in a thread. When two people disagree, you see them say the most horrible things to each other. And so, I think it's because we have not mastered this new form of communication yet. So I'm curious to see how this interplay, this exchange of art and experience happens in a digital forum.
I think there's a lot that we have yet to see in terms of the technology of this existence, this online existence, this digital existence, because we're still in the primitive days of this. Imagine everyone having VR Or,
Yeah.
you know, we're on the road to the Matrix, basically. We're on the
Yeah.
road to everybody having a synthetic experience or living in avatars. But what's real at that
Hmm.
point? You know, we're all souls and bodies right now. We're all psyches and living in this body that, you know, has its limitations.
Hmm.
I can't go to Rome right now. I can't go down the block right now. But if we had a device that was able to put us in that room, and I think that people would react differently too. Say we were all in a virtual room, you know, something a little more advanced than Lawnmower Man. But
Yeah. Yeah. I love that
imagine
movie.
yeah, everybody is in the room together. I think you would see a return to politeness and,
Hmm.
you know, standard, you know, just the way that the way people drive is not the way people stand in line at the grocery stores.
Hmm.
You'll have more manners in person, but when you're driving, you're in your bubble and I feel like it's the same way when we're, you know, on our keyboards talking even through a screen, you know,
Right. But
there's
so
a
part of that
separation.
though, part of that is because it's the illusion of freedom, right? But it's not actually free, right? The you think that, oh, I can go anywhere, I can do anything on the internet, but because the information is so vast and nobody could ever process all of that information, you have to choose what you
Mhm.
see. You have to choose what you
Yeah,
experience,
it's almost an
and
infinite world, whereas
well,
we live in a finite world. The world is only so big,
right,
but this
but
digital world is.
right, but because there's only so much that we can process, we need a way to navigate it. And so these tech companies, these social media companies, the Facebooks and Twitters and whatnot of the world, right, create these algorithms. Oh, we'll show you what you like,
Sure.
right? So now, because of that, you curate your own reality. What do you want to see? And you don't even realize that you're doing it because as it learns who you are and what you believe, it's only going to give you things to reinforce that. And so now you're bred in a world that inherently does not challenge you. And that to me is scary, right? Everything is meant to reinforce what you think you know. And now
Or
we
what you want to know.
or what you want to know, right? What you want to believe.
And then you have a chicken and the egg case where
Right. Like I
are
want to
you
believe that I'm a good person. I want to believe that, for a white person, I want to believe that racism doesn't exist. Or for a man, I want to believe that misogyny and the mistreatment of women doesn't exist. And you can more easily now curate that reality.
sure.
And that's a terrifying prospect to me as I see us get further and further away from the trusted institutions of science and logic, and more into like, well, I've been assigned this, you know, as a, to pick an identity, right? Like, say a cisgender straight white male, right? I believe that I'm the top of the food chain, and I believe that I'm a good person, and everything in my feed, everything in in my curated reality is going to reinforce that. So I'm never going to be able to look at myself critically, right? Or whoever you are and whatever shortcomings you have, the reality that you create is counterintuitive to actually deconstructing those things and becoming something more.
Hmm.
Which is a scary thing. So as we talk
Yeah.
about, like, communication, and art is, a communication tool, right? That's, I think, what is special about that is the ability to say, well, no, here, step in these shoes, see what life is like from this perspective, and I
Well,
think that's a special thing.
as long as we still maintain that ability to see things through the other side,
Mm-hmm.
to have that ability of perspective and empathy,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, because time will definitely change us.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly believe in a couple hundred years with, we'll all be brown, so to speak. We're the purity of any culture or way of being is going to diminish as we all blend together, as the world just becomes smaller and smaller. And yeah, these may turn into quaint notions.
Mm-hmm.
They'll look back and be like, why couldn't they just get their things together? Why couldn't they get along? The way we look at, like, how, I don't know, for an example, Italy in the 1800s was a bunch of different states, and now
Mm-hmm.
it's just Italy.
Yeah.
And in 1,000 years, they're going to look back and be like, man, there was all these different people, but now it's just Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're all just
but I think that's scary and problematic too. At least it can be, right? When the price of admittance to that, whatever that new thing is kind of getting rid of that thing that makes you culturally unique, right? So as for example, America, right? You're talking about Italians. Is Italians moved to America, right? And then is we got away from, oh, I'm Italian, or I'm Irish, or I'm African American,
Sure.
so on and so forth. Um, and it was like, no, you have to be American, right? And so I think the price to be American is to divorce yourself of those things that make you culturally unique. And as we then created these constructs of whiteness and blackness, right? And to consolidate power, we could say, hey, Italian person, you look like a white person, so what we consider to be a white American. Why don't you join our club? Divorce yourself of your stuff. We'll give you like Italian restaurants. Hey, Irish people. I know we used to say you couldn't come in either, but you can come in now, and we'll give you St. Patrick's Day. But divorce yourself of all your other things that make you culturally unique.
Sure.
That is problematic, right? So how do you say, hey, all are welcome, but at the same time recognize and celebrate those differences? I think it's a hard thing that I don't think we've figured out yet.
Mhm.
So it's an interesting study. It looks like our guest should be in any second now. They're trying to get into the studio right now, so we should see them in a minute. I'm looking at, if you heard the dings, y'all, that's the show chat going off. So
Yeah, they're blowing us up.
yeah. So oh, they need the link again. Let me repost it to them. Just a second. There we go. See, that was me that time. So it's an interesting thing. And then you've also seen, right? You've also seen art used to be a tool of oppression as well, right? Like you see,
Well, it's a double-edged sword.
pieces.
Exactly. The image of the hammer, or the swastika, or any of these things that have been used to, or the burning cross.
Mm-hmm.
It's all, I would say that's art, but that's just imagery. It's symbolism, which goes back, to the history of man.
Yeah.
We've always used symbols to, a picture says 1,000 words. So we've always used it to encapsulate an idea, to intimidate, to give hope, to one man's this is another man's that. Ding ding.
We have one of our guests in the green room. Let's bring her in, and then our other guest is trying to get in right now, having a couple technical difficulties. Hopefully, she gets in soon. So bring our first guest in.
Hey guys.
Hello,
everybody watching. This
Working
is Natalie.
on some technical stuff.
Hey Natalie, how you doing?
I'm doing
very good.
good.
Nice to meet you.
How are you?
We're good. We're just having a conversation about art as a tool for communication.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I don't know if you were listening before you hopped into the stream.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about the various ways it can be used and the various forms of communication and how communication can be problematic, right? Like virtual communication, which is still in its infancy, creates issues. It creates curation issues, right? So like you can curate your reality on Facebook. In fact, that's what the algorithms encourage to reinforce what you already believe. But then how art can put you in the shoes of a different perspective and whatnot. So that's what we were talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks
so what
for
do you think about that? What's your meditation on that?
My meditation on social media as a whole.
Sure. Let's go with
and how
that.
it's perceived.
Yeah, let's go with
That's
that.
actually really interesting. I see it shifting in this time for sure. I definitely agree with all that you're saying about it being a facade. I'm definitely guilty of only posting the positive in my life on my social media pages, which could look like I don't go through hardships. But I think that in this time, we're all feeling a little bit vulnerable in one way or another, and we're kind of teaming together on social media in particular, because that's the platforms we have to connect. And so it's the conversation of what's socially distancing versus physically distancing. We're definitely physically distancing, especially in the Oak Park area. But socially distancing, I don't think so at all. I think we're coming together in a very vulnerable way, checking in on people more, being honest with, this is hard. There's lots of mental health issues coming up, different, uncomfortable feelings that are arising as we're all just kind of sitting at home on our Facebook pages or Instagram pages. So that's what I've been noticing.
Yeah. So sorry, Heather's still having some issues getting into
Yeah, I
the
was trying
studio.
to. I heard your text messages went off as I was trying to log on too. I was like, this is really funny.
I don't know what she's clicked on. She's saying it asked her to add a destination. She's just clicked this link. I don't know what she's clicking on.
I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah, it's right.
Link.
So here, you two talk for a little bit while I'm gonna hop out for a second. Ian,
Okay.
you're in charge for a minute while I hop out and try and help Heather.
Maui's got to produce this thing.
I don't think I've met you before, Ian. How are you?
No, I don't think we have met. I'm very good at you.
I heard you're a common co-host, but I listened to Maui's show with Victoria and Rashida, and I also listened to the one with his birthday show.
Yeah,
you weren't present for either one, which I think was just coincidence.
I did the first half hour or so, maybe 45 minutes of his birthday show.
Okay.
And then I normally do the Monday show, and if he does a Friday, sometimes there.
You're a regular. I love it. Are you a guitarist?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Are you a guitarist?
Yeah, I'm a musician.
Okay.
Unemployed right now, filling the void.
Yep.
Playing, live streaming sometimes, and using this social media to get that out. I honestly, as when we talk about social media and stuff, I don't besmirch too many people for not sharing the negative, because I feel like things like Facebook and Instagram, ultimately it's about having fun, and
right.
There's definitely a business side of it, and also a wellness side to being able to share some things. But I also respect that, there's still some friends who aren't on social media at all. And when I talk to them, it doesn't seem like, they're really missing out on anything.
How do they connect? Yeah.
Yeah. I think also, there's an argument to say that social media allows us to connect with, it fine tunes our social interactions. So you do find people that are, if you want to, you can surround yourself with just people of like minds.
Mm-hmm.
And you're almost skipping your immediate vicinity, like, especially like in a big city where, 20, 30 years ago, you were immersed in the city, and you knew your neighbors, you knew everybody, that you interacted more because you had to, you had to go read the paper, you had to go, take the train into work and stuff. And nowadays, especially as people can work from home more, and, for an example, people who play a lot of video games, that's their social life. And Facebook to me feels like almost like a video game, because there's ways, I wonder how many likes this picture got. It's almost like a way of scoring. I find myself, I'm just only speaking for myself, that I find like, ooh, this is going to get a lot of reaction. And, like I said, I use Facebook as a tool mostly for music. I am able to say when I'm playing a show next, and I'll live stream now, but, it's definitely changed now that there's no shows to be played right now. There's no concerts being
besides shows like we're on right now.
Yeah, exactly. And this is we could be doing. I feel like there's going to be a lot of these things that linger on even after we get the all clear.
Absolutely.
I'm learning how to do these broadcasts, and it's exciting to be able to meet. Through my connections on Facebook, I'm meeting all kinds of different people that we're all in the same neighborhood. Again, I feel like I hang out in music venues
Mhm.
And I surround myself with other musicians. There's so many other walks of life that I'm not sort of running with right now. So what do you do, Natalie?
What do I do? Currently I work with Dream Chicago, and I'm a project coordinator for them, and we do visual arts mainly, but we work with all disciplines of arts, connecting communities through the different kinds of arts. So the founder actually is Heather, and she's coming on shortly. But we did a pilot course in the elementary school where we were doing a dream studio and working with kids kindergarten through 5th grade, and kind of getting their dreams brewing. What are they inspired by? What are they thinking of? Providing resources even at the level, the elementary school level, with what we could do to support them as a community. And so we were in a pilot course when all the schools got shut down. And so that was forced us to reprogram.
Yeah.
And how do we connect? This is the big question. Like, how do we connect through arts when we're all physically disconnected right now?
Sure.
Yeah,
that's kind of the question that's been raised. I was talking to Maui about it. I actually know Maui from Live Cafe that I used to work at as well. Shout out to Live. And we've always kind of been dreaming about how we would work together and how our missions would blend. And so he's very community-based, and I really honor that in him. And so this seems cool. Like, how are we going to stay connected with another obstacle like coronavirus, the whole pandemic, and how we're asked to be separated? So we're actually doing a show. I don't know if this is too soon to say.
No. I talked about it earlier. Actually, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, I missed that part. I was
your
probably trying to log in and stuff.
And look who we got.
So we're actually doing a show. Is this too soon to say?
Yeah, perfect time.
Okay.
Hi.
Sorry, Natalie, what you were saying?
Because I was just talking about Dream Chicago. He was asking who had not met before, explaining Dream Chicago.
Hold on 1 second. Heather, can you mute or
Yep, something's
exit out
back.
of your...
Hold on, let me see.
He was asking who had met before.
Oh, last time you had to turn off the
Yeah, just
the website
exit out of your Facebook page.
yeah, exit out of the Facebook.
Yeah.
She's got videos
I'm
going.
gonna mute her until she has to figure it out. So we don't have all the noise. People will leave.
I think I got it.
All right, there we go. Perfect. So Natalie was talking about the Sunday thing, and then we'll
Yeah,
kind
I
of go
was
into
just gonna do a
Chicago.
quick plug. Ian just said that Maui also talked about the Sunday show, but we are doing a show at 7:00 this Sunday. It's an art experiment, and it's artistically responding to how are we connecting in this new season of disconnection. And we're doing that. I will be doing a live painting actually, and we have some friends coming on. One is dancing and one is playing guitar. And Heather will also be on the show doing a spoken word piece.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're using 4 different kinds of art forms, improv, live on Facebook, on the spot, just kind of how are we responding to this question, and how are we connecting together? We're kind of in a conversation, right? Like without using words, how are we expressing this through movement? How are we expressing this through song? How are we expressing this through live painting? I'm actually really excited about my live painting piece because I've never done a live painting piece before. And so this is an opportunity to really take in. I'm an observer by trade, and I just kind of take in a bunch of notes and express that. So I'm excited to do it on the spot with paint. So I'm looking forward to Sunday's show.
Yeah. Now, did you already explain about Dream Chicago, Natalie?
A little bit, but I'll pass the torch on to Heather.
Yeah. So
I said
Heather,
a little bit about the community and our pilot we were doing at Holmes Elementary School, and how we're reprogramming now. But this is actually Heather's baby, so
Yeah.
I will definitely look at John Fancher.
we have John Fancher asking who's playing guitar on Sunday.
I'm
It's
sorry,
John
I'm
Fancher.
happy John Fancher. Yes, he will be joining us. I'm so
John
grateful for
Fancher,
that.
the one and only. Yeah.
The one and only.
So Heather, can you tell us a bit about Dream Chicago, how it came to be, what its mission is?
Yeah. So, in 2012, I was working for the city. I was working at actually the Chicago Housing Authority, and I was in these really disadvantaged communities. And then I was also kind of bridging the gap, like meeting with funders and people in government. And it's like, I noticed when I started talking to people about the dreams that they had for themselves, for their communities, for their families, they were very, very similar. So even though these might people that are from completely disparate backgrounds, might say they have absolutely nothing in common, it was just striking to me, like, wow, you have the exact same dream as this, 15-year-old kid I just talked to in the inner city. His dream is not to become, for example, the stereotype, the hip hop artist. He actually wants to make a better life for a family that he has in the future or something like that. And I just got really excited connecting with people around the dreams that are on their hearts and using that as a way to bridge gaps and using the language of creativity to create this dialogue and show us that dreaming in our case, we talk about the dreams that are on your heart, what you want for yourself, for your family, for your communities, and that there's no bad dreams. We have all these kind of rules of dreaming, but it just started as these kind of pop-up public arty. I won't even say that some of them were like full-on art expressions, but just community dialogues and engagement with people around the dreams on their hearts. And then it just kind of, I didn't really know what it was. And then it started growing. I would get invited to come do things called dream camps at schools and go do master classes and do pop-up art experiences in parks and churches and communities. So it's a very growing, living organism. And even now it's exciting for me and Natalie in this time, because we get to reimagine a lot of things that, we're excited about that.
Yeah. So, and would you say that then it's less of creating a platform for you and Natalie to tell stories. You're creating platforms for people that don't get to tell their stories to tell stories.
Absolutely. A lot of people that we connect with. And this is, again, not just inner city, not just kids. It might be a teacher that I'm talking to or a teaching artist. They've been told, like, you don't really talk about your dreams, and there might be reasons why they don't. They're disappointed. They've been discouraged. They've been disillusioned. Your dreams are selfish. There's just a lot of sort of coaxing out that story. And there's always, we found like, a bigger dream. And I don't mean that like bigger, more important, but even like a deeper dream, like even with youth that have dreams of celebrity, it's like they actually want to make an impact. They actually want to have a voice. They actually want to make a way for the people they love. It's not just this sort of selfish, I want to be, a celebrity, but it's like we found it's more about hearing people's stories, coaxing those out of them. They kind of become our stories too. I mean, I feel like Natalie and I already have like hundreds of stories that we kind of feel like are ours because we get to share in this journey with people. Because the second part of the organization is helping resource those dreams. So if you have a music dream, we'll take you to a recording studio. We did this with a group of kids, and they got to sing and play and perform and be with a Grammy award-winning producer. Like it's not just
awesome.
about, let's talk about these wishful thinking. Let's turn this into a powerful experience where you meet someone who's living that dream, because a lot of people haven't, or even, youth haven't met someone who's living that dream. And that makes it feel like their story is even more untellable or unattainable.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I will also say, as a segue, Ian is the king of wishful thinking. No, it's a song.
He's like,
I was
really?
going to say, that's like a song right there.
It's a song by Go West, and it's got the most, like, pardon my French, batshit insane music video you will ever see in your life.
Really?
It's amazing. It's
I wanna look it up
amazing.
now.
Natalie, we're doing that next.
Yeah,
let's look it up.
after we're done, we'll all watch
Was that
it.
a theme song to an 80s movie?
Probably. I'll get over you. I will. I'll
Yeah.
pretend my ship's not sinking. Then I tell myself I'm over you. I'm the king of wishful thinking.
Yeah.
That's my jam.
That
But
was
they
cute.
were clearly
I
on
like
like all of the cocaine when they like.
I feel like
made
that was like the
music video.
Weekend at Bernie's theme song. I could be wrong, but
It could be. It's been a long time since I've seen Weekend at Bernie's. Love that movie. And so you said you've done dream camps. So where do these things happen, right? Like how, like if people like want to like
Yeah.
take part in a dream camp, like how could they do that?
Well, before this pandemic, we actually were in residence at a studio called Fulton Street Collective in the city, and we hosted master classes there. Those were for adults, and we would say it's artists who are living their dreams, who are coming and sharing their stories with people who've just started that adventure, may not know what the next step is, right, for achieving their dream. But then we would actually bring a lot of our experiences to the community. So it was less about trying to get people in. All of our programs are offered free. Some of our initial master classes, we would charge a really nominal fee just to make sure people would show up, because we were bringing in and paying artists and guests to come and spend their weekends with us in some cases. But a lot of it's open invitation. Natalie can attest to this. We'll just be out doing crazy stuff. Just because we like to, like doing like songs or like we've gone to UIC's campus, for example, and taken guitars and written people spontaneous songs in the moment or whatever. And then they're like, hey, would you come to my school? Or would you, hey, I'm a teaching artist at Holmes or wherever. And we kind of find ourselves in these places that we don't really have connections, but then we make new friends. So it's snowballed. So, we're in talks now about doing some things online, and Dream Studio is something we were actually launching in some local schools before all the shelter in place hit. But, a lot of the things that we do also are like what we're going to do with you on Sunday, collaboration for the sake of collaboration, creating music, books, spoken word, art, like in the moment with people and creating conversation and community around that. It's less about taking a class or, having that kind of experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, that makes sense. And it's interesting too. So are these usually like class based, and then they create a thing? Or is it more like, hey, here's your forms, go create? Like, I'm curious.
It can depend. So we've done like a sculpting studio, for example, and that was a very real, like, come whether you have no experience or a ton of experience, and you're going to leave with something that you didn't realize you could create, do something you didn't think you could do. We've had screenplay writing, we've had fiction writing where people come in with a manuscript and they're like, hey, I actually know how to write, but I want to get more, I want to know how to sell this or how to market this. And so we'd have different people coming to help them. So it really depends on the need. We kind of have this repertoire of artists, like our cadre of teaching artists that we can tap into. And so if someone says to us, this has happened, for example, hey, we have a ton of kids who want to write a graphic novel. Do you know anyone who's done that and been successful? Would you bring them to talk to these kids? And so we'll go, absolutely. Other times we'll do more playful things, like last summer, Natalie and Rebecca, who's going to be on the show on Sunday, and I went to a school and just did sort of live art there, like creating a piece, but it was taking the dreams of the students. They came and shared a dream, and we incorporated it into the art piece. So they weren't like physically making the art, although a lot of them wanted to, but we just couldn't, it was 500 kids. But we like recorded audio for their dreams. We're turning that into a song and like a new I Have a Dream speech. So some of the things are like in the moment, yes, you create something and you take it home. Other things are, we're creating this community piece, and we actually don't always know what it's going to be in the moment, but we do create something with it,
Yeah, that's fascinating. Ian, do you have any questions?
No, when you say dreams, are you saying like literal dreams, or like are you encouraging their aspirations? Like what are we? What are you having them visualize?
We talk about it, particularly with youth, about it's a future moment or a future thing that you want to actually pull into your present now. So it's like, I want to be, I want to be a recording artist, for example, a musician. So I know there's steps and there's a road that I have to get there. but what can I do now to pull a little bit of that into my present reality? And so we talked to them about the different kinds of dreams, Ian. Like there's educational dreams, there's health and wellness dreams, there's dreams for your community, there's dreams about we want fewer, like less gun violence and fewer crimes in our neighborhood. I want to see my mom get her college degree. I want, so it can be personal for you. I mean, and again, it really is like a dialogue. We do this thing where when you go through one of our programs or camps, you actually are asked to write a list of 100 dreams. Mm-hmm. And it's really, really hard. Even like someone like me, who's like been writing my dreams since I was like 7, right? And they're crazy. For people to get like maybe 10 down, they can, but then to get to 100, you're starting to like really uncover like what some of those, like what's the core dreams that are about our identity. And I think like why we're put on this earth, and what we bring, our masterpiece. So it's, not sleeping dreams. It's like the moment, the goal, the dream, the aspiration that you might have.
And I'm sure you're getting a wide variety of responses depending on the child, because, due to like some think abstractly, some think analytically, some think mechanically, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I didn't, as a child, I wasn't artistically awake, so to speak,
right.
Until a little life experience occurred. I always, like I was telling Maui earlier, it's like I've always loved and appreciated music. It always made me feel good. But the thought of being a music maker or an artist, that, I feel like there's still a level of life experience that has to occur before that internal yearning kind of shows itself.
Right. And that can be a beautiful moment when you introduce someone who's doing something, right? That, and even for adults, it's like, wow, I never actually thought that the reason I like that is because, I am a storyteller, and I like, oh, the path that you took, I never thought about taking. Is it too late?
Yeah, it's not even on the radar yet.
Right. That's a big thing for me, right? Like making sure that they also know that there's not one path,
right,
to seeing a dream achieved. Like for me, like I did not start achieving any of my dreams until my mid 30s. Right. Just a few years ago, I started doing all this stuff that I love. That's after a lifetime of believing that, like, the time for dreaming for me was over. Right. And it was only and it ties into what we were talking about at the top, right? Using art as a communication tool. It was once I learned to do that, once I learned how to reclaim my narrative and tell it on my terms, that I was able to find the belief in myself to start going after the things that I wanted. Both personally, professionally, not academically, because I didn't really have any interest in going back to school, but, community-wise, doing activism, things like that. Like, I didn't get plugged into that stuff until I could, see that there wasn't one set path. And so, that's an interesting thing as well, I say, if people are coming from things from different perspectives and different narratives, and then seeing, like, your narrative and Natalie's narrative, how does that intersect with the narrative of these children in these schools, or, the people that you're meeting with that come from a different narrative that maybe don't have access to certain pathways, and how do we still make sure that they can achieve their dreams? I think that's a fascinating thing. So would you say that you've had any difficulties or learning experiences in that respect, in terms of like trying to find intersections in your various journeys?
You want to go first, Natalie?
With people that we've collected dreams from?
Yeah.
I think it's important to, like, as I'm hearing you speak a little bit more, to say that dreams could be fun dreams. I've said this to kids before, wild dreams. Like, you could want to go scuba diving and that was your dream, and then you have another dream. Maybe you want to move to Florida because it's sunny. That could be a dream. It doesn't have to be like career-based necessarily. And so not to limit dreams, that was really important. I think we're going to talk about this at one point. We also do the community dream assessment, where we collect dreams from everyone, and this is actually targeted more towards adults. So in this time that we're all home, I've been making postcards If you check out our Instagram page at Dream Chicago, there has been some postcards and some feedback that I've sent out to about 50 different zip codes, so all across the US, asking the simple question of what is your dream? You're invited to dream with us. And this could be career, this could be communal, personal, fun, wild. And I have such an array of answers. Some, yes, people want to be teachers or they want world peace. Those are actual dreams that I've gotten back. But I also get things like, I want to move to a new state, or I want to try something new. And so that's also interesting to hear. And those come from all over. Like I said, 50 different zip codes roughly that I sent it to. And so people are thinking the same thing in different places is what I found. Or similarly.
Thank you for sharing that.
I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on something that I was thinking of, and speaking of these times that we're in right now, this idea of art being, not essential to daily life. And I feel like it kind of rubs me the wrong way when we see these things about like what's considered essential and what's unessential right now. And how to, like, I see how impressionable children are, and they're growing up in these times where, this is already going to change a lot of things. And I don't want art or things like that to be seen as something that's not essential, because I feel that it is.
Absolutely.
And, think about what people are doing at home while they are on this time off. They're enjoying art, I would say, at a more of a pace than ever, and I think it's what, to quote Dead Poet Society, it's what makes life worth living. Yes, there are other noble pursuits that are required for life, but I just wanted to, sort of get your guys' thoughts on the idea of the role of art when it comes down to it in a time like now, and how this time is going to influence, us for years to come.
Well, I mean, one of the things that we've talked about in the past with particularly when we go into a community that's underserved is, dreams are, and I know you're talking art specifically. I'm talking about sort of these dreams and then these creative ways of expressing those and connecting around those, bringing the different art forms in. They're anchor, like it's an anchor in times of chaos and confusion and trauma, because this is really who we are. I mean, we have music in our DNA. I mean, like there's science behind that, right? So it's like we are, and like it's central to who we are. And so you don't shut down your dreams when you're in and I'm not saying this is easy, right? This is why we have to have community and do the things like what Maui's doing here and what I know you each are doing independently. But I remember being with a young teenage mom, and she was like, "You're telling me to dream, and I have a newborn baby, I don't know his father." And I'm like, your dream is who you are, and you cannot forget who you are in this moment, and it was kind of this whole bringing it out that way. I mean, this girl was like an incredible writer, and I had no idea. She was like failing out of school. And I had brought a friend with me to this dream experience. And my friend was actually a divorcee who had been remarried. And this young girl who had had this baby said, "I've never met a woman who's divorced who I would want to be like." And this woman was an artist who I brought, a graphic designer. And she's like, because I've met someone, and she was a single mom because she had, didn't know the baby's father, had met another man, had the baby, and then was divorced. She's like 19 and has these 2 failed relationships. She's like, I'm not going to dream. Like, are you kidding me? But then this experience of, wait a minute, this is core to who I am. And this woman who's an artist has shown me that I do have something to say. And I like it completely. And that's just like one person, one example I know, but transformed. I mean, I watched this young woman transform. And I mean, this is the power of art and dreaming at a time right now where people are saying like, I can't dream. I have to go stand in line for a meal in New York. And it's like, I get that. That's a very real thing. But we also have to encourage one another to do what we were created to do.
Yeah.
And art is something that's hard to define, but one synonym that I always use for it is just simply creation. And there's all kinds of creation. There's even the art, the ability to create yourself and create your own identity, and part of it is dreams and stuff. So I think we overlook a lot of things that are really art.
Absolutely.
I think if you've lived an experience of your life where you are always at the top of the food chain, right? If you're a straight white man in this world, you probably don't see the importance of dreams because you've already achieved it. The chances are, right? You've been given a pretty good deck of cards to start with. And I think you always see in times of trouble, in times of strife, in times of unrest, the first thing that your establishment will go after is the art, is the avenues that allow you to dream of something better, to believe that you are worth more than what the establishment wants you to believe that you are. And that's, I think, why, any moment, a pandemic, a war, anything, the first thing that they go after is the art. This is not an important thing. This is not essential. Right. And we have to, and I think that's why art is always then in turn used as a tool of resistance, right? You see it used as a way to say, no, I'm here, I have a thought, I matter, I exist, I bleed, I cry, I love. This entire conversation makes me think. I was just looking up the "A Dream Deferred" by Langston Hughes, right, where he ponders on what happens when you are not allowed to dream, and your dreams are constantly being put on the back burner. Does it shrivel up? Does it die? Does it explode? What happens? I think dreaming. And being able to express those dreams through art, through creation, is I think one of the most important things we can do, especially if you come from a marginalized community.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a form of liberation. I see it as well.
Yeah. Dreams can be the rocket fuel that gets you out of it, or at the very least, it can be a cushion to soften the blow of your reality.
Well, and I think one message that we try to sort of reiterate time and time again is that the dream adventure or trajectory is not I go after this dream and I achieve the bullseye. It's the journey is like this, any great leader, whoever your hero is, whoever you're trying to model yourself after, they failed. If they're a politician, they didn't win re-election once, or they had a major scandal, or if they were, Michael Jordan, they got cut from a basketball, whoever, that's what the journey looks like. So if you're at the rock bottom right now, and it's that's okay. That's actually a really important place in how you deal with failure and, resilience and all of that. And that's why, again, community is so important, it's
all about that first step.
Yes. We have this dream map that we use with youth, and adults could use it too, but it's sort of where are you here? Are you completely disillusioned? Are you completely discouraged? Do you not have a clue? Do you think this is never going to happen? Or are you I got some hope for this, because if you've got some hope or you've got some courage, someone else can borrow that, and I feel that's a lot of what art does too, right? Lifts the spirit. So Ian's got his song and he puts it out there, and Natalie's not there yet, but it's she can't live off of that, but she can get enough inspiration, she can get enough encouragement or hope in the moment to kind of push her to that next stage of, moving towards the dream achieved.
Yeah. That and the uses are endless, right? I can use art to tell my story, or if I'm down, I can absorb someone else's art to give me a little bit of hope, right? If I'm down, I can put on a movie that I love, or listen to a song that gives me life, right? We talk about things that give us life. Usually the things that people say are, the things that give them life are usually works of art. I've never heard some hey, what gives you life? And someone says oh, this piece of concrete. It's it's a piece of art.
My iPhone.
It's a painting, or it's this song that slaps, or this this awesome movie I just saw, or this it's these artistic expressions that ignite the senses. It's a fascinating thing. I want to thank Heather and Natalie so much for being on the show today. As we wrap up here, I'd love if you could let the people know where they can find you and what you got going on.
Natalie, you want to plug the social stuff because you're all over
social
it?
Media. I already put a little plug for the Instagram, but I've been spending a lot of time on our Instagram page at Dream Chicago. That'll tell you what's going on next and share the postcards that I talked about earlier as well. If you're looking for a postcard or want to submit your dream, that's a place to do it. We also have our Facebook page. Check us out on Sunday at 7, Facebook Live, just like we're on now. It'll be on the Dream Chicago page.
As well as the Echo Theater Collective page. Simulcast.
Yeah. There's links, though. There's links.
There's links. We get all the links. We'll make sure we put them in the comments.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then our dreamchicago.org as well. Just submit your
Thank
dream.
you, guys. Ian, it was great to meet you.
Great to meet you, ladies,
It
as
was
well.
good to meet you. Yes.
Yeah, thanks so much. We're going to say goodbye to you now. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for
See you
having
Sunday.
us.
Yeah, see you soon.
Absolutely. Looking
All
forward to it.
Thanks. Bye.
Have a good night, guys.
So that was a great show. That was a
Yeah.
wonderful, stimulating conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite enjoyed that.
You got some interesting friends, Maui.
Yeah, you're one of them.
Interesting.
Jay McShane Fancher gave all the claps.
Clappity
And
clap.
Natalie's mom, Donna, said "Dream Chicago." A smiley face with 3 hearts around it. That's lovely. So usually we end with some art. We end with some music. You got a song in your heart after that conversation?
Shit,
Something?
well, yeah, I do got a song. It just got me thinking of all these dreams. I'm going to do a song called Dreamin'.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna give you a single here.
All right.
Take it away.
When I met you in a restaurant, you could tell I was no debutante. You asked me what's my pleasure, a movie or a measure. I'll have a cup of tea, tell you of my dreaming. Dreaming is free. I don't want to live on charity. Pleasure's real or is it fantasy? Real to real is living rarity. Please stop feeling and stare at me. We just walk on by. We just keep on dreaming. Feet, walking a 2 mile. Meet me at the turnstile. I never met him. Never forget him. Dream, even for a little while. Dream, filling up and not allow fade away. Radiate. I sit by and watch the river flow. I sit by and watch the traffic go. Imagine something of your very own, something you can have and hold. Build a road and go, just to have some dreaming. Dreaming is free. Dreaming. Dreaming is free.
Hey, that was beautiful, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful. Thanks everybody for watching tonight. And in the immortal words of Shia LaBeouf, don't let your dreams be dreams. All right, make them and that's to say, make them a reality. Right, go out and find them. Go out and get them. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you on Sunday at 7 for our live art experiment. Please come check that out. And as always, Echo Love, everybody. Have a great evening.